Hello friends, welcome to Pro Tips from the Icebox. I'm your host Scott Casella. Today we're going to be tackling the kitchen and the bar segments of the list that you will have hopefully printed by now. Looking at the kitchen first, so that you understand what I'm working with in the field, and I believe that my food preparations will make more sense to you seeing how I'm going to be cooking while I'm out there. And the bar is important because I drink while I cook, and that's most of what you're doing at camp. So sit back and enjoy. I hope you can make sense of what goes on here, and we'll catch you around the river bend.
Grand Canyon, Colorado River.
All right, I've been using a Gamma Seal lid on an upgraded food quality 5-gallon bucket for years. It works fine. I have got this cool black strap around the outside that I got from an outfitter known as Andy and Bax in Portland, Oregon. Great guys over there. Check them out. I have 2 buckets nestled, as you just saw. The very first thing I do when I land at camp is I go down to the river and I fill that bucket up with water. Well, halfway anyway. Unless I'm doing a layover, then maybe I'll fill it all the way up. And I put that down by my kitchen area and let it settle. That's going to decant, and you're going to be cooking with that water. You're going to be using that to boil your rice and your pasta and your potatoes, and you're going to be drinking it for coffee and using it for the oatmeal in the morning. So that bucket aside, here is my actual kitchen rig. Right now the rig is set up for 2, but my wife will not be joining me on the forthcoming trip, so I'm going to be paring down just a few items as I go. That I just pulled out is the spice packet. Probably the most important thing in the entire, in everything. And we're going to be rebuilding that spice kit in a moment. I'm just showing you here how everything is nestled in there. This is the importance of my compactness of my kitchen is that everything stacks neatly. And the stacking is what allows me to get as much as I'm going to get in here. Those 2 little hockey pucks there are the Trangia alcohol stoves, and I can't recommend them enough. I have 2 because I will on occasion rock two burners, believe it or not, and also just have a backup that way. I've just pulled out my olive oil, which we're going to look at in a moment in depth, and there's my bleach. That is, if you look, I've only used a finger's worth of bleach for the whole previous trip. So that is enough bleach for, 30 people for 6 months. It's crazy. You do not need as much bleach as you would think. A small little capful will be super, super potent when I show you where I set that up for my bleaching kit in a moment. You can see that plastic cutting board fits nicely in the bucket around the outside, though I prefer to use that little wooden cutting board. That is a Jetboil container with the Jetboil cup on the bottom. That little plastic thing I've pulled out, that's a Lodge cast iron scraper. That is the most important cleaning tool that I'm going to use, and we're going to talk about the Brian Burns dessert soup in a moment. I have 2 utensils, a Nalgene spoon, and then a titanium spork that I've rocked for years. I love it, although I have seen they make a long handle spork now. That is on my wish list. I've got 2 coffee mugs nestled, right? I have the one inside of the second, and the one smaller one is my wife's. I'm going to pull that out for this trip because she's not coming. The larger one is one of those Yeti mugs my buddy Matt got me for my birthday. Thank you, Matt. That thing's awesome. And then I've got a variety of tin foil that you've seen come out there, or aluminum foil, I guess. And those are all like the MSR windbreak foil kits. This piece of gear right here is the piece de resistance. This is a 2-liter pressure cooker. This is the heart of my kitchen. And that's my whole kitchen rig. I'm going to set it up here a little bit so you can see kind of what it looks like when it's going. All right, this is a 3-piece little metal stand. It's specific for the Trangia stove. It's awesome. Make sure you put it on this tin foil or you will burn or melt through something underneath because those things get way hotter than you think once they get cooking. The simmer lid is important to temperature control on the whole thing. The first thing I'll usually cook is inside of the pressure cooker. I'll do rice or pasta. A lot of times I'll bring rice or beans up to temperature. You can set it off to the side and it stays at pressure. It stays cooking while you then use your frying pan to cook up the veg. The whole thing gets combined. That's dinner most days. That same stove can be used in the morning to boil coffee on the Jetboil container, which is very efficient. Also, this little stand that I have for the Trangia stove fits perfectly for the Jetboil as an alternative. I recommend that a lot. The little cup on the bottom I use for measuring cup, and that little red scraper tool, again, is used all the time to clean stuff off. All right, here's my bleach rig. This is a little silicone bucket. You just fill that up with a little bit of the water that I mentioned earlier, right? Remember, everything's going in there. I'm showing you how I get water. Great. A little bit of bleach, the smallest couple drops of bleach and that little bit of blue water, and that is going to be how you sanitize things after you're done eating, right? So you finish your meal, and then I use that little scraper tool to get all the last little bits, and I eat all of it. I'll pour a little bit of water or beer in there, and I'll use my spoon, and I'll slowly slurp it all up, and I eat all of it. There's nothing left. You just eat it all. That's the Brian Burns dessert soup. A little bit of that bleach water then, and it's good to go. All right, so it's all cleaned up, ready to go down on the canyon again. Look at that. It's all neatly nestled in there. That's a full kitchen rig. You can cook indefinitely out of that rig, I attest. Having your spice kit together is essential for making delicious foods while you're cooking, and we're going to be putting these recipes together on the fly out in the canyon, and having a nice palette of spices enables you to, as your mood suits, cook delicious food, which is how I live my regular life. So I want to extend that into my canyon trip. It helps me be comfortable and enjoy myself. So looking at the list, on the top section in food, on the far right under condiments, is where I have the majority of my spices. I think I probably have a few extra things that I'll be putting together on the table than I have on this list. So use your imagination and what you're used to. But for me, I'm starting with salts. I have a garlic salt that I use a lot, and I also will bring just a regular iodized salt. Chili powder, that's nice just to buy a pre-mixed chili powder. Then you have, when you want chili night, rice and beans and or potatoes, and you can make a chili that works very well. Curry powder is really a nice one. I mix that with the powdered milk underneath there, and so I can make a nice curry with that. I also have sesame seeds listed, and I can mix those with some of those red chili flakes, perhaps, certainly some of the sesame oil. Italian seasoning, that goes a lot. I end up cooking, with the Italian seasoning with the Parmesan cheese powder underneath. I don't bring nice Parmesan cheese. I just bring some of the cheap Parmesan cheese with a lot of cellulose in there. It's actually really, really stable like that. That's pretty good. Cumin Old Bay. Hot sauce, I'll bring a thing of Tapatio or something down there. Soy sauce, I'll bring a small bottle of soy sauce. And the olive oil, you saw me rock the olive oil when I put the kitchen kit together earlier. I go and I get fresh, delicious olive oil. Olive oil can spoil, can get rancid, so I get fresh olive oil, and I'm cooking with that regularly down there. It'll be either the olive oil or the sesame oil and or some butter are my three. Lemon juice for your acid is a nice thing to throw into stuff. Side note here, you'll see under dinner, underneath the rice, we talk about salt or bouillon cube, and on the table I have 2 jars of better than bouillon. That stuff makes magic happen. And that is about it for the condiments section. The Gamma Seal bucket comes with this little white gasket, which after time they weather and fail in time. I have had this idea to try just using some caulking around the lip. I don't know if that's going to hold or not, but I'm going to give it a shot and tune in later. We'll find out if that works. There's an exciting experiment. So now that we've had a thorough dive into my actual cooking area and the equipment that I'm bringing, we're going to return to the list in the kitchen area and just go through this to make sure we have everything in the segments is going to go into the ready to go pile. Starting with the straining ground tarp. You only need a ground tarp, and any ground tarp will be fine. These little mesh ground tarps are just awesome because sand goes through them, but the little bits of stuff get caught, and they're comfortable to sit on. They're super cozy. I think they're cool, and they fit perfectly underneath underneath the pop shelter, the Megalite. So you have seen my Trangia alcohol stoves. I'm not using propane, so I just cross that out on my list, but your stove has recommendations for usage there. 1.5 to 2 gallons of denatured alcohol is plenty for the whole trip. I'm bringing 2 full jugs, plus those 3 containers are full. That's a little bit left over from last year. So I have so much extra. I will have almost a full gallon extra for the full month, and I'm cooking like a fiend out there. So I've got that extra alcohol in case somebody loses some, in case I lose some, right? Something happens, I've got plenty of extra fuel. It doesn't look like a lot of fuel, and I have almost twice as much fuel as I'm going to need, which is just super cool. After many trips and considerations, I'm bringing both my full-size roller table, so if it's sunny and nice, I'll be sitting with my full-size chair at the roller table. I'm also bringing the super small mini table that I can cook on inside of the Megalite if there's weather. I like to cook off the ground, so I got this neat little mini table. I bring 2 jerry cans for water, and I'll fill these up at Lee's Ferry. And I can get down to Phantom Ranch no problem with those 2, and then I'll fill them up again, and I will end up making water once thereafter. Next on the list is my coffee rig, the AeroPress, which I talked about in an earlier video that I shot, which will be displayed later, but I put it someplace and I didn't know where it was. And this is a prime example of what the list is good for, is that everything that I'm doing in these, I'm putting in a special area that's ready to load. And so I had to find this thing again to make sure I had it. And here it is, my AeroPress. I think this is a great coffee rig. I'll talk about it in the next thing. But that's all it takes. That little bad boy is coffee for the whole month. Strainer satisfies Forest Service requirement, and a little scrub brush. I like to use as a backup. If you burn something, right, sometimes you just need to scrub a dish, so I bring a little scrubber. And on the list here, you can see me just going through, right, the cutting board knife, the pressure cooker, frying pan with lid, the Trangia stove, the pot holder, the jet boil. Backup is in one of my safety kits, the 2 spoons. The 3 tanks for dishwashing, you'll need to show a ranger, though I just bring that one blue thing with the bleach with my eat every food scrap technique, which takes care of that. The bottle bleach is in the kitchen rig. Plastic dish scraper was that little Lodge red thing you saw. And, here, I'm going to get my empty protein powder container for trash. This little bad boy right here.
Grab an old protein powder plastic container or something with a good tight lid. You can use this as your little camp garbage inside of your bags. And then as you go along, take one of your old food buckets or an ammo can and turn that into the garbage. You can keep that on the boat as you go.
And I believe that is the end of the kitchen list. We're going to hop right into, to the right of this is the bar. The bar and the kitchen go hand in hand, so check it out as I get ready to drink on the beach. We'll probably drink most of that whiskey. I may or may not finish it. I'm actually not a huge whiskey drinker, but I'll bring some whiskey. Those 2 nips are tequila. I saved those for Tequila Beach on Lava Falls Day, which is kind of just fun to have those. Beers, it looks like I have a lot of beers. I'm bringing 102 beers over 30 days. That's 3 beers a day. And I have a bag of wine that I'll use for like Italian night. I'm always watering my beer and my wine down in my coffee mug, so I'm drinking like half beer and half wine. That way I can just, drink and kind of stay hydrated. Those water jugs, can't tell you how important it is to have a nice water jug. I actually that jug on the left was an orange juice jug that I chose specifically because I like the feel of the plastic and the size of the handle. And when I go to get water out of my bigger jugs, my jerry cans, I don't want to just fill up a Nalgene bottle. You'll be there every day dealing with that. You got to untie them. It's a pain in the butt. So if you have a couple of gallons like that, now you only have to go to those jerry cans every 2 days or something. And you have enough that you can just, hang out and drink out of one of those things. Let's see, lighters. We talked about having a couple of lighters. One long lighter in your kitchen rig, and I keep a lighter in my toolkit. Paper towels, break off about 20 or 30 little sheets and put them in a bag, and then do another 15 or 20 sheets in a second bag. You don't need a ton. You need a lot less than you think. You can see me here. I'm folding them up. I stick them in there, and when I do my final food packing, which is coming soon, I'm going to break them out. So I'll have 1/2 of the paper towels lying in wait for week 3. I'll have fresh paper towel supplies. And that is the end of the bar segment. That'll be the end of this video. Thanks for watching.